Subfertility is a delay in conceiving. Infertility is the inability to conceive naturally after 1 year of trying. In subfertility, the possibility of conceiving is naturally exists but takes longer than average. In infertility, the likelihood of conceiving without medical intervention is unlikely. Infertility is not an inconvenience. It is a disease of our reproductive system that impairs the body's ability to perform the basic function of reproduction.
Trying to become a parent, infertility can seem like an end to your family building dreams. However, just because you can conceive naturally doesn't mean that you can become a parent. There are many infertility options available to you, including some that will preserve your genetic connection to your child.
Like zygote intrafallopian transfer, gamete intrafallopian tube, surrogate embryo transfer, surrogate mother, adoption, child-free living, and pre-implantation genetic diagnosis.
Zygote intrafallopian transfer or ZIF. Zygote intrafallopian transfer is an infertility treatment used when a blockage in the fallopian tube prevents the normal binding of sperm to the egg. Egg cells are removed from a woman's ovaries and in vitro fertilized. The resulting zygote is placed into the fallopian tube by the use of laparoscopy. Zygote intrafallopian transfer or ZIF ay katulad lang din ng IVF or in vitro fertilization at ng gamete intrafallopian transfer na kailangan ang egg cell at ang sperm cell ay ma-fertilize sa laboratory at gagamitan ito ng laparoscope para ipasok sa fallopian tube ni mommy.
These are the disadvantages and advantages of ZIF. The first advantage is fertilized eggs. ZIF is slightly more reassuring than GIFT because the doctor confirms that eggs have been fertilized before placing them in the fallopian tubes. So the next advantage is the natural implantation. ZIF allows a developing embryo to travel into the uterus on its own, which may appeal to you if you'd like your baby to develop as naturally as possible. Although there are no medical reasons why natural fertilization is preferable to assisted fertilization. And lastly, it has no link to cancer. Recent studies have shown no connection between ovulation-inducing fertility drugs and cancer. Early studies suggested that exposure to fertility drugs might lead to a higher risk of ovarian cancer or other cancers of the female reproductive system. And for the disadvantages, first, it is expensive. ZIF involved expensive lab works, medications, and surgery.
GIFT is commonly chosen by couples who have failed to conceive after at least 1 year of trying and who have failed for 5 to 6 cycles of ovarian stimulation with intrauterine insemination or IUI. Ang gamete intrafallopian transfer or GIFT ay katulad lang din ng IVF at saka ng ZIFT or zygote intrafallopian transfer at in vitro fertilization. Pero dito gumagamit tayo ng multiple eggs na nakolekt natin sa ovaries at saka yung eggs ay napiplace ito sa thin needle or yung tinatawag natin na laparoscope along with the sperm to be used, the gametes or yung eggs at yung sperm cell ay i-inject ito sa fallopian tube. Ito yung tinatawag nating laparoscopy.
We look at the different styles of any kind of assisted technology for reproduction. Any kind of assisted reproductive technologies. Now, we have two types, ZIFT and GIFT. So ZIFT represents zygote intrafallopian transfer, whereas GIFT is gamete intrafallopian transfer. So between these two, The difference is, so this little structure here, you wonder what this is. This is the uterus, right? So you have the ovaries here, you have the fallopian tube presented here, and then you have the uterus. So I'll put uterus here in the middle. So we have the uterus. So you have the oviduct or the fallopian tube on both sides. And we're going to compare the difference between Zift and Gift. All right? So sperm and egg come out. We'll do the gamete intrafallopian transfer. They grab it. They put it on a petri dish. All right, so we draw a little petri dish here. So for the sake of color, we'll put white as sperm. And then we have some eggs in pink. So we'll have some eggs here, some eggs here. And they're all cultured on a petri dish. However, what's really important about gamete intrafallopian transfer is that there is no fertilization that takes place. They're only removed, put on a petri dish for some kind of selection, and then reintroduced back into the fallopian tube. So again, if I were to draw it, so you have a couple eggs here, and then we have a couple sperm here. And this is an example of gamete intrafallopian transfer, where there's no fertilized egg, so there's no zygote. And so the separate gametes are transferred in the fallopian tube, waiting for fertilization. Zift, however, zygote intrafallopian transfer. So again, I draw the petri dish here. Egg and sperm are removed. But what's important now is when the sperm and egg are transferred onto the plate, they're left there longer in order to be fertilized. So now, if I do it in green, we'll call those zygotes. Zygote is what? A fertilized egg. So when the sperm and egg combine, become diploid, they become this structure called the zygote. And so now these zygotes are transferred into the fallopian tube. So that's the difference between Zift and Gift. So Gift happens separately, so the gametes are separate before they enter the fallopian tube, whereas Zift, the sperm and egg combine in vitro, so outside. So let's write that. So in vitro fertilization. This is an example of in vitro fertilization. And so then that fertilized egg or that zygote gets transferred to the fallopian tube. So these are the two different styles of intrafallopian transfer.
Surrogate mother. In this family building method, an embryo is created by the intended parents from their own sperm and egg or with the donor gamete, and then transferred into the uterus of a surrogate who will carry the child to term for them.
A surrogate mother is a woman who agrees to carry a pregnancy to term for a fertile couple.
If a couple cannot carry a child for themselves, whether for medical reasons or the intended parent is male single or male gay couple, surrogacy can be a great experience. This option can be a best choice para sa isang mag-asawa na merong mga medical conditions like for example, pag ang babae ay hindi kayang magdala ng anak sa kanyang sinapupunan, pwede silang magpasa ng sperms at egg cells sa isang laboratory para makabuo ng isang ovum at maghahanap sila ng isang babae na pwedeng magdala ng kanilang magiging anak sa kanyang sinapupunan,
which we call the surrogate mother. So there are two types of surrogacy. First, the gestational surrogacy and the traditional surrogacy. So traditional surrogacy, also referred to as a full or genetic surrogacy. In the traditional surrogacy process, the surrogate is also the egg donor. So using intrauterine insemination, ang itlog ng surrogate ay i-fertilize ng sperm na nanggaling sa intended father or sa isang donor. Then the surrogate mother will carry the baby for the duration of the pregnancy, and then she will sign away her prenatal rights when the baby is born. While gestational surrogacy is much more common process, kung saan ang surrogate mother ay walang anumang biological connection sa batang kanyang dinadala. Ang embryo na kanyang dinadala ay ginawa via in vitro fertilization or the IVF, and then it will be planted into her uterus.
Child-free living. Ang child-free living ay naging alternative lifestyle siya both fertile and subfertile couples. Maraming subfertile couples na nagkaroon ng kahirapan at pagkabigo sa subfertile testing at hindi rin nagtagumpay ang treatment sa kanila, kaya maraming couples or subfertile couples na nalulungkot din kasi yung iba gusto talaga nila na magkaroon ng anak, at isa rin ito bilang naging negative effect sa pagiging subfertile, lalo na yung mga couples na nagplan para sa magiging anak nila. Malaking expectation nila na makamit o magkaroon sila ng sarili nilang pamilya. Meron ding couples na nag-undergo ng child-free living dahil mas gusto nila na matulong sa ibang tao at makatulong din in our society through personal accomplishment. It also has an advantages for a couple that also allows them to pursue their careers. They can travel more, maraming time and money kasi makapag-ipon sila ng maayos at magagawa nila ang gusto nilang gawin na mga hobbies nila or continue their education. If a couple wishes to include children in their lives, marami namang paraan. Many opportunities are available to do this sa pamamagitan ng kanilang family connection. Most parents welcome offers from siblings or another family member to share their child rearing through volunteer organization such as Big Brother or Big Sister program, through local school and town recreational program. Marami namang couples na naniniwala sa overpopulation, kaya yung iba kahit the subfertile is not present, nag-undergo pa rin sila ng child-free living. Kaya maraming parents choose child-free living, typically rate their marriage as happier than for those with children, dahil mag-decrease ang kanilang expenses and availability of more free time at mas may freedom sila.
Pre-implantation genetic diagnosis is a laboratory procedure used in conjunction with in vitro fertilization or IVF to reduce the risk of passing on inherited conditions. The individual retrieval of oocytes and their fertilization under laboratory conditions had led to close inspection and recognitions of differences in sperm and oocytes. After the oocytes are fertilized in IVF and ZIF procedures, the DNA of sperm and oocytes can be examined for specific genetic abnormalities such as Down syndrome and hemophilia.
Isa sa mga option sa pamilya ang pre-implantation genetic diagnosis if ayaw mo mangyari sa future anak mo ang magkaroon ng genetic abnormalities. There is a possibility one of your partner is diagnosed in hereditary disorder. Pwede rin mapasa ito sa mga future baby nyo or pwede rin makuha sa family member nyo if diagnosis sila sa hereditary disorder. Pre-implantation genetic diagnosis is a genetic test performed as a part of in vitro fertilization, IVF, zygote intrafallopian transfer, ZIFT, and DNA. Kumukuha sila ng mga sample from the oocytes and sperm upang malaman natin kung ba silang genetic abnormalities na maaaring makuha ng future baby mo at magkaroon sila ng Down syndrome or hemophilia. Kaya ayaw natin mangyari sa future baby natin ang magkaroon ng Down syndrome or hemophilia, kaya recommend ng doktor ang magpa-test sila na pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. at upang maiwasan natin ang mga genetic abnormalities at maging healthy si baby in the future.